This program was brought to you by Organo Gold. Organo Gold is a health and wellness company that provides healthy coffees, teas, and chocolate. All one has to do is consume the available products to get all the available benefits. One can also share these products with others to help them improve their health as well. For more information, call 703-359-5642 or visit the website basilelemba.com.
And now, Fairfax Breakfast Club with your host, Besile Lemba.
Welcome to the Fairfax Breakfast Club show. My name is Besile Lemba and I will be your host. The Fairfax Breakfast Club is a weekly program in which we bring to you valuable and workable know-how you can use to improve your networking skills and grow your business. We always start the show with a quote, and today's quote is, "The mother art is architecture." Without an architecture of our own, we have no soul or our own civilization. And that is from Frank Lloyd Wright. With us today in the show, we have someone very much involved with the mother art and the beautification of our environment. He has worked on different ventures, and now he's here to talk to us about it. His name is Leroy. Hello, Leroy.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Wonderful, thank you.
I'm very excited to have you on our show. Allow me to confess why. I happen to be an architect.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it gave us a great opportunity to have a discussion about it. But first, tell us about you.
I started my company, Urban Development Ventures, back in 2004, principally as sort of a small, rhythm of a part-time exercise. I was working as a contract employee for one of the federal agencies at the time, the National Institutes of Health, a part of a team that were managing its 4 million square feet of lease space, primarily throughout Montgomery County and Baltimore on the Johns Hopkins campus. And they have a small contingent of space in North Carolina as well as Arizona. And during that time, during the down moments, I started Urban Ventures and was doing some leasing work, some residential, and more recently, in 2011, I was working with one of the larger brokerage firms, C.B. Richard Ellis, as a part of a federal government contract, a national contract that they call the National Broker Contract, in leasing office space or finding office space for the federal government on a national level. I decided, we agreed, they have certain small business goals, that have to be met. And at certain times, depending on what company you may talk to, there may be challenges there. I had a company that had been created, and I sort of approached the principals, and we thought it was a reasonable idea that I might step aside and sort of continue to service the contract, but under Urban Development Ventures, which is what we did.
So that's how the company just took off from there. Exactly.
Okay.
It
created an opportunity for me, created an opportunity for CBRE, I think, to continue to meet its goals, and it gave me an opportunity to step away from some of that day-to-day to pursue some other initiatives as well, and to continue to service our major client.
Gotcha. Very good. Excellent. Now, you brought some figure to enlighten us on this real estate situation. Can you tell us about it, please?
Sure. I just, of course, in the field, it's good to know what's happening in the marketplace and servicing clients' needs. And here in what we call the National Capital Region, it has been a very, very strong engine of economic growth throughout for both Maryland, D.C., and Virginia. Generically, let's say if we go back 25 years or so, even to the Reagan administration. But more recently, given the market downturn in 2008 and a very slow recovery subsequent to that, and the government making a decision to, from a leasing point of view, to freeze the footprint. They made I think there was an executive order signed by the president that they would not increase any more sort of space. They would give back space to the landlords, bring people, consolidate folks. And so as a result, we had the downward spiral of the economy and then the slow recovery, in part, that's been contributed to by the government sort of squeezing back on some of its funding initiatives. And so When we look at what's happening in the market, let's just start with the district, which is District of Columbia has typically had a vacancy rate of about 10%. Right now, it's still somewhat healthy in that the vacancy rate in DC is about 9.3. Usually when you say a vacancy rate is 10%, that means there's 10% vacancy in the marketplace. So if you had a need for space, there would be some place for you to go. That creates somewhat of a healthy market. If it rises above that to 15 or 20, that's generally too much vacancy for the market to bear, and it has a downward impact on prices. Even in the district, rental rates have been relatively flat. And then jumping across the river to Virginia, the vacancy rate is about 15%.
For businesses or for?
Just in terms of office space, we're speaking.
Space, okay.
Yeah, in terms of vacant office space. So the market has had a certain level of, been stagnant. Rents have been relatively flat. We call it more of a tenant's market. So if you're a tenant in the space,
it is a good buy now.
It's a good time for you to come out. The landlord would generally offer a few more concessions just because they're sitting on a little bit more vacancy, or there's competition for any new requirement that might come out in the marketplace. And if we go, on the Maryland side, the vacancy rate is a little bit higher, even still.
Oh, really? How much is it in Maryland?
It's just maybe a tick higher, about 16%. But we also have variation in sort of values of cost per square foot for space. So average cost per square foot of space in DC marketplace, let's just say it may be sort of in the high $40 per square foot. If it's Class A in a great area, it could be as high as the mid-50s. In Virginia, around here, Tyson's, we're at Vienna area, it would generally be, even in the Roslyn corridor, we would say sort of mid-30s, mid to upper 30s would be the number. And in suburban Maryland, $25 per square foot. Higher in Bethesda, of course, and maybe a tick or so higher in Rockville, but as an average, it's about mid-20s for Maryland.
Very good, interesting. So we can see some of your work over here that's done. Which of your work you like the most? Which one you find the most interesting, or you would say?
What I enjoy most about my work, even though it's you mentioned architecture in your opening quote. I have sort of an undergraduate degree in sort of landscape architecture, and so have always had an interest in the built environment, and even worked here locally years ago in one of the local jurisdictions here as a city planner. And today, during the leasing transactions, I think I enjoy the people aspect first and foremost, because it's all about the relationship. Not necessarily, it's a transaction. You could call it a sale, but it's more of a transaction, making sure that what we offer is commensurate with what's necessary for the client. And so in terms of providing space, whether it might be a small requirement or some of the larger government deals that I've been involved in, let's say a few years ago, we had what we called, the BRAC consolidation, base realignment and consolidation, whereby they were taking larger chunks of spaces and conglomerating them together, and we would have to go out and procure or find space to meet those needs. Many of these were sort of DOD clients, and so some of those transactions were very large, 500,000 square feet. That might be 3,000 to 5,000 employees.
Wow.
And so those are very challenging, but of course very rewarding as well. It's just, you just can't replace the level of satisfaction that you get from getting the requirement, interfacing with the client, and over a year or more, finding a space that meets their needs, interfacing with the architects, getting their technical requirements situated, where it might be furniture, IT, space layout. All of those things sort of come into play. And in that regard, we've done satisfied. Fish and Wildlife was a recent location that wasn't BRAC related, but that is a situation. They had an expiring lease. Every lease is an agreement that has a term, and when it runs out, you either stay or you leave. And in many of these cases, the government stays for a long time, typically, and usually after 15 or 20 years, your space may be obsolete, and generally it's time to go somewhere else and to start anew.
Because they probably can't stand, or not that they can stand, it's difficult for you to renovate while they are in there.
True. It's difficult to renovate. We had a transaction with the for NASA. They're located in D.C. on East Street in Southwest. And they were already in their space for about 20 years, a building that was built by Boston Properties back in the late 80s. And it's generally a competition. Whoever wins, it's based upon sort of net present value over the life of the lease. So whoever has sort of the lowest number, since it has to be sort of in the best interest of the government from an economic point of view, that also meets the requirements. In this instance, it was in the best interest based on the numbers to stay in place, and we also renovated in place, which was extremely challenging.
Oh, I imagine. How can you renovate when people are using the place? That's difficult.
We had to, part of the deal,
unless you renovate at night, but even then, you got to...
Right. It's still very disruptive, extremely disruptive. And so much so, this deal was done back in 2010, so 5 years ago. I think looking back on it, depending on who you speak with, you may find those who say, I think it might have been better to just go somewhere and start with a clean slate, a fresh canvas.
I guess it depends. Life is about using your judgment.
Right.
But I know some people work on construction, they go at night and then they got to go and clean up.
Exactly. That's right. Yes. Very challenging.
Yeah.
Very challenging. That's just to put it mildly. It could be noise issues, it could be dust issues, it could be any kind of logistical challenge they think we had on that project. And I wasn't involved after the deal was signed, but I stayed somewhat close to the project. I think there was at least, I'm speculating, well over 12 or more moves, since they would renovate a floor and you would vacate that floor and you would move off-site. And then after it's renovated, you move in, and then you go to the next floor. They will move out.
I've been to one of those. On residential level, it is beyond stressful.
Right.
Move has never been an easy thing to begin with by definition.
True.
You always underestimate what it'll take.
Exactly.
To move.
Right.
You always. You think, I have 3 boxes over here, I have a couple of things move. But when you start, when you start. You never know when you're going to end.
Certainly.
And then now once you donate and you settle there, try to make yourself comfortable, which is seldom is because you don't feel necessarily at home. Now you got to go back to the other place. In the movie you always lose things.
Of course.
You don't know where they are and what it is. Right. Ooh, my goodness.
Yeah, they call it sort of... move and replication and downtime. I guess there's some inconvenience. That's the downtime as part of the inconvenience factor. That's a part of it. And as you say, losing things or...
You're losing things. What is what? What have you put it back together? Reorient yourself because you're used to operation. Where everything is, it is quite something.
Certainly.
There is either way, the space is never the same, seldom, so that you cannot just go from one place to another one. But I think moving is definitely one of the most stressful things that ever was in life.
True. And I think as human nature, we like what we like. We all like sort of normalcy, and any sort of wholesale move, a large-scale move is not normal. It
is always the anguish part of it. But if you have to move, that's understandable. Right. But the idea of moving out to moving back, that's double whammy. That's like you don't have the problem once you have it twice.
And one thing I think is good to note is some of the transactions that we're speaking of, they're so large that they have the capacity to sort of change an area, to totally change a neighborhood, if you will. And we've had that happen, particularly in D.C. and in the NOMA, North of Massachusetts Avenue district with, if we turn the clock back to as recently as 2006, there was very little office space there compared to what they have currently, and many of my government clients had no interest in going there. That's typical for any new area. No one wants to be first, and typically, I think the federal government has always played a role of change economic development sort of catalyst. Whether it's NOMA, I think where the other parts of Southwest, I guess even if we go back to the mid-50s, you know, and when the Redevelopment Act took place, when areas in Southwest near HUD was redone, you know, that was part of economically lifting those areas. Even more recently, we did a large transaction still back in 2010 in Reston. I think National Geospatial Agency moved from Reston to Springfield, adjacent to 395, which created a vacant building. And what they were very concerned is a property owned by Boston Properties, sort of a nationally traded organization, very concerned about having a vacant space and no income. And they competed successfully to win a follow-on 20-year lease with another DOD client. And it's just has had a very strong effect along Sunrise Valley Drive with the coming of Metro and everything to totally solidify, you know, those areas.
So mention Metro. What does Metro means for you?
You know, Metro.
I'm going to tell you one thing
yes.
before you go in. I had lunch not long ago, which is very interesting. Just mention that as an anecdote. I've launched with some guy who works for a hotel in Tyson's Corner, and they never get business from the government. It's just like it was not just happening. It's like, because there are these boxes where you mark, do you have this, do you have this, do you have this? And now they're getting business all over the place. Why? Because Metro is there. Before that, because when they look at the qualification, no Metro, no business.
Right.
They are sitting in Tyson's Corner. They're 12 miles from DC, 12 miles literally from the airport. Now they can mark that they have to hire somebody or take somebody, create that post of government contracting because they're getting so much business. That's what I'm asking you. What does Metro means for you, or you can tell from your perspective?
Yeah, I think in my line of work, Metro is a serious player. You know, we have, before we go out to the street with a requirement, in terms of advertising a need, which many people in the commercial real estate industry take very seriously just because the transactions are so large. Every requirement, not every requirement, but many of them have a certain requirement that the building has to be within a certain proximity to Metro Station. Or some of the larger transactions I just mentioned to you, they either had to be sort of in walking distance, 1/2 of a mile, or folks would have to have a shuttle bus to take people to the Metro Station. So in terms of, you know, getting cars, we have limited capacity, limited road capacity, and so the government has taken, you know, note of that, and many of its requirements is necessary that, you know, the building be located within sort of, I think the metric was, if I'm not mistaken, sort of 2,400 walkable linear feet of a Metro station. That's kind of the metric that's in the requirements typically. And if you can't do that, you had to have a shuttle bus.
And you pay for
the location in Metro. I mean, sorry, and I think we did a recent transaction for Fish and Wildlife. They relocated their headquarters from the Roslyn-Boston corridor to Falls Church. It was another location that was vacated by BRAC, and I think there had a shuttle bus there, a commitment for a shuttle bus. So it's very real. People take it very seriously, and so, you know, Metro can create winners and losers in our world.
You only wish you were the winner.
Right. You always want to win.
Well, the whole saying about location.
Correct. That's right. That's right. And so it's real. I took Metro today. You know, the infrastructure is probably not what it used to be, you know, and they're making investments, but it continues to be a very serious catalyst. It makes all of our lives easier, and it's not going anywhere. It's been transformative for Tyson's Corner and some of the newly planned stations. I think the one for Potomac Yards, it will be transformational as well, and whatever happens with the proposed Purple Line in Maryland, I'm sure they'll figure it out. It will have potentially a similar effect.
It's interesting how many different factors can come together and work out. Now, you have the opportunity to attend our breakfast event, did you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
Can
did.
you share with the audience your experience at the breakfast event?
You know, the breakfast event gives one an opportunity to sort of hone their pitch, to meet other small business owners or large business operators, for that matter, and to create sort of new business opportunities, serious networking opportunities. I just got an email in driving out here this afternoon from someone I had met at one of the breakfast meetings, and she was introducing me to someone else that may have a real estate need.
Okay.
So you never know what might happen. And so, yeah, I thought it was a very good opportunity, definitely.
How about the expo? You attended the expo.
Yeah, the expo. I saw the expo similarly. You know, in the commercial real estate business, certainly there were conventions a lot, and so to the extent that one has an opportunity to get their materials together, to create banners, other sort of medium, and to stand behind that media and speak to it, that was the opportunity that it presented for me, as well as to interface with potential customers and other vendors as well. And I saw it as a trial run. It was one of the first that I had done in that capacity. And so you also, since it's a trial run, you can see where if there are certain deficiencies, things you may want to hone, you can make adjustments for opportunities going forward.
You have a very nice booth, by the way. Your booths were very nice.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. There was one, I told the gentleman that there was one blemish that was pointed out to me that I didn't catch. Nobody caught it. The professionals who prepared, some of the media didn't see it, but one of the one gentleman who was coming through, he saw it, and I'll be sure to correct that before we go to another road show.
Okay. Well, that's good. It was the first time, so that's
right.
totally understandable.
Exactly.
But we had a picture of it in our newsletter, so you're going to be promoted there for quite a while.
Okay, fantastic. Excellent, 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 excellent. I appreciate that.
Who won't send you a bill for that one?
No problem at all. Any media is generally good media.
Now, Leroy, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What is your biggest challenge in life?
I think my biggest challenge in life is maintaining balance and growing the business. They seem like polar opposites to a certain degree, you know. In my world, since I mentioned we're doing sort of government contracting work, and this has been sort of a government contracting town historically in recent history.
Yeah.
And that has been trending downward like many other markets. You know, I think we're being forced to diversify, to not just be totally reliant on the federal sector. And so as a result, some of my federal government work has been trending downward. And so there's a serious need to sort of diversify, to do more sort of private sector transactions, may even consider doing some development work or either sort of owner's rep type work, whether it may be zoning entitlement or helping them find properties, helping them get properties zoned, or working in a project management capacity. And so I think that's one of the major challenges, I think, for Urban Ventures at this particular time. The government contract that we're in the last contract years is being recompeted. There may be, again, not to overly use this term, you know, winners and losers again, once the government makes their selection. But it's some work I've been doing off and on for the last 15 years. I love the work, love the people, would like to continue to do it. But these are, again, competitions, and we'll have to see how that is resolved.
Somebody else told that to me, say, win some, lose some. Really,
Right.
That's, you know.
Right. Yeah, I think in this business, you know, whether any kind of sales or transactional business, you have to be, the old guys say, you have to be optimistic, or you're in the wrong business.
That's a good one.
Yeah, you have to be optimistic, you know. And I truly, you know, if you don't believe that when you first hear it, I think if you stay around for a while, you recognize, I think, the importance of having that outlook, because things are, are up and down. I worked for a developer once, and I described it as probably the best job I ever had, but it was akin to being on a roller coaster. You had to be strapped in, high highs and low, and the lows could be somewhat low at times.
So you want to stay in the middle.
You want to stay in the middle, but you want to stay even. You want to stay looking up clearly. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Don't look down. Look up.
That was very sexy work, but you spent so much money on what we call pre-development dollars. Whether you're acquiring a site, you're hiring engineers, consultants, architects, spending dollars there. You're going meeting with constituents and the city managers and planning commissions and county supervisors, and at the end of the day, the deal could be one vote short from being approved. And so I call those sort of, being at that low pitch of a low moment, spending all that money, you're sitting in a meeting at night and the deal goes down by a 3 or 4 vote. But that's just the way it is.
That's the nature of the business.
Yes, that's the nature of the business, exactly. So that's why it's important to stay up.
Well, sir, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It was outstanding.
This was a great show. We'll have to do that again at some point.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. Folks, I just want to remind you, have a monthly breakfast event here in Fairfax. Look us up at on our website, which is blnbc.com. And also, we have our upcoming expo November 6th. I want you to check that out. Information on that can be found on our website as well, which is ultbizexpo.com. Our shows is on TV 3 times a week, Tuesday at 9, Wednesday after midnight, but also Saturday at 2 o'clock. You can catch all our shows on our website as well. That's all we have for you today. So as always, we wish you a very, very happy day, a very productive day, and we're looking forward to seeing you next time here on Cox Channel 10. Thank you.
This program was brought to you by Organo Gold. Organo Gold is a health and wellness company that provides healthy coffees, teas, and chocolate. All one has to do is consume the available products to get all the available benefits. One can also share these products with others to help them improve their health as well. For more information, call 703-359-5642 or visit the website basilelemba.com.